Hi, welcome to my video about Chinese diet therapy. We're going to be talking about how you can use Chinese medicine aspects in your diet, in your lifestyle today, and how you can have a better health and better life according to Chinese medicine. So what is Chinese diet therapy? It's one of the 5 branches of Chinese medicine. The 5 branches are acupuncture, Chinese herbs, Chinese diet therapy, Chinese massage like Tuina, and Chinese exercise therapy. So those last 3 branches are all about lifestyle. They're all about like living a healthy life, whereas the first 2 branches are more about like treating health problems. So if you have a health concern, like you might have aches or pains in your body, or you might have digestive problems, or sleep problems, all kinds of things, you'll come to a Chinese medicine practitioner and they could use acupuncture, herbs, they might use both of those things. And Chinese diet therapy can sometimes be used to treat health problems, but more often than not we use it to prevent you getting sick, to make your body healthier, to just make you have a generally healthier life. So let's talk about what the difference in Chinese medicine is with your diet, because there are some really big differences, and if you don't understand how it works, a lot of people think, oh wow, I wouldn't think that would be healthy. So hopefully by the end of the video today you'll be able to understand why we would say things are healthier. So one of the biggest principles of Chinese diet therapy is to eat mostly cooked foods, and we would say eat mostly cooked foods most of the time. So stay away from too much raw food in general. Now this is a big difference in diet. Like, why would you eat like a lot of cooked foods and not so much raw food? Certainly there's more nutrients in the raw food in its raw state, right? So why wouldn't you want to consume all of that nutrition in your body? Why would you want to consume some of that nutrition by the process of cooking? So we say eat mostly cooked foods most of the time. Why would we want to eat a lot of cooked foods and stay away from too much raw? That's a great question, and we're going to understand how that works with this example here. So if you imagine your stomach like a cooking pot on the stove, so that is your stomach itself, like that's you cooking, like you were cooking up a soup, and the spleen of your body, which is not exactly your spleen in terms of your physiological spleen, like your actual organ spleen, but it's the system of digestion that we would attribute to that function of the spleen, which is also in the 5 elements of Chinese medicine. We'll call that the earth element. So both of these are the earth element, which is the digestion of your body. So your spleen is like the fire, right? It provides the heat, the energy to do the job of digesting the food. So basically, if you understand that this process is happening, whatever you put into your stomach, your body has to turn it into a soup. So we would say it has to turn it into about a 38 degrees Celsius soup. That takes up energy to digest it. And essentially, it's yang energy, right? So you need yang to kind of separate the pure and impure, so the pure parts come up and the impure parts go down, and that process happens in your stomach, but it happens all the way through your intestines as it goes through your body, and your body's always trying to extract the pure bits and get rid of the what we call the dirty dregs that goes down. So if you put foods in here that that facilitate this process, then it takes up less energy for your body to actually digest it. So the things that your stomach likes is warm, moist, and cooked. It loves those things because they're easy to digest. So warm things are exactly like your body. Your body's warm, it likes warmness, it doesn't like coldness. It's moist, so it's not too dry, it's not too biscuity or crunchy or crackery. The moist, like when you put moisture into the food, so we'll talk about how we can do that later. And also that it's cooked. So when it's cooked, this is a cooking process that your body goes through. It's already done a little bit of that process, so in the end it takes up less energy. It doesn't like things that are cold, dry, and raw, because essentially these things are going to take up more energy. They just take up more energy, and then your body gets tired. And the whole idea of doing this process is so that your body can gain nutrients out of the food, right? So you're gaining energy. You want to make energy from the food. And make substance and all the stuff that your body needs to function. You don't want to be doing this process just to facilitate enough energy to do this process, because you're not going to get any storage out of it. You're not going to have anything left. So what happens is, as this goes through, if everything's normal, your digestive system has enough yang and enough energy, heat in there to separate the pure and impure and digest it all properly, then you're going to have properly formed stools, like regular bowel movements. If you start to get any changes with your bowels, then that's very simply an indication that this isn't working somehow. There may be lots of other things, lots of other reasons why it can happen, but chronically, like if you have like loose stools or diarrhea really regularly, or you have things like irritable bowel syndrome or something like that, where you've got alternating constipation and diarrhea, or problems with your bowels, so particularly when there's a lot of more cold in your body, you typically get more looser, like you'll get loose stools and like diarrhea or something like that. And if you just suddenly have a change in your body, so you've got regular bowels and then you eat something that didn't agree with you, let's say, like you felt nauseous or you had food poisoning or something like that, then there'll be that instantaneous change because your body's either trying to expel that poisonous food or might have vomiting or something like that. So any changes with your digestive system indicate that there's something, either this isn't happy or you've put something in here that's so hard to digest. So while your Chinese medicine practitioner is kind of fixing this and making this better, so that's what we do with acupuncture and herbs, is we try to like restore that function. You want to avoid like putting all this stuff in here that's making it equally hard to digest. So you'll get a better result with your treatment if you start using warm, moist and cooked foods. So that's why we say eat mostly cooked foods most of the time. So what does that mean, like in your diet? So for instance, like if you had a day's worth of food, you'd want to have like mostly cooked in there. Just get this little wiper. On your plate, you can try to balance that cooked food on your plate, and you can also try to balance it through the day. There's a few different ways you can do that. Also, we would say balance it in the seasons. So Chinese medicine is not saying you can never have raw food. Certainly if you have a pattern of disharmony where your spleen and stomach are not working properly, so you already have diarrhea, or you've already got a lot of pain in your stomach or some sort of problem there, your body's always going to feel better with warm and cooked versus cold and raw. So you're best off doing that. If your body's generally healthy, we would say in particular seasons, so you have summer and winter. So these two seasons are like opposites. So in summer you've got like tons of yang coming out on the surface of your body, so you can have a little bit more raw. And here you want to have mostly cooked. And that cycle like continues. So as the seasons change, you should change your lifestyle. You should change your sleep. You should, you need lots more sleep here. Your body's in a state of storage. I've got another video and a blog post you can have a look at about how much sleep do you really need. That's a good one to see the differences in sleep here. But in the winter time, your body's in that state of storage and hibernation. So it's really good if you can eat more heavier, denser foods and certainly more warm and cooked. As the weather gets warmer, like the springtime happens, you start to feel like your yang will come to the surface a little bit more, so you'll start to feel a bit warmer, maybe sweaty a little bit more easily. Then you can start to exercise a bit more and you can have a little bit more cooler foods. That's okay. In the heat of summer, like it's quite refreshing to have maybe some cooler foods, but we would never really say have frozen things, like don't have frozen drinks, because that's just going to chill that stomach and spleen. You really don't want to chill your digestive system out too much. So we would say the first thing is eat mostly cooked foods most of the time. Second one is pay attention to the seasons. So whichever season you're in right now, you should be thinking whether you should have more warm or cooked, or you could have a little bit more raw. And if you're in doubt, just stick with the mostly cooked foods. Now with the cooking process, there are lots of processes of cooking. You don't have to cook it all the same way. In winter, you can have a lot more slow cooked. So if you've got in Australia we call it a crock pot, these slow cookers basically. So what it does is it cooks it at a low temperature. It's usually a ceramic container, which is great. You put your food in there. What's great about slow cooker is you don't really have to do too much preparation. You kind of cut all the food up, put it in, put your water or whatever your liquid is, cook it overnight, and then bang, it's done in the morning. So you've got the food fresh for the next day. The essential thing with cooking foods is that you eat it freshly. Like when you cook a food, like the previous question you may have had thinking when I said don't eat too much raw food is like, well, what about all the nutrients in the food? Like if I cook the food, aren't I consuming some of those nutrients in the process of cooking? Well, yes, you are. But we would say that you can absorb more from a cooked food absorb a bigger percentage, even though you're consuming less nutrients, than if you consume it raw, you still can't consume all of those nutrients. So your net gain is actually more if you eat mostly cooked foods. A slow cooker is good for meats, heavier, denser foods. You can even make soups and stock kind of foods in there. And it creates those kind of hearty meats and heartier sort of dishes. Now, if you're vegetarian, that's fine. You can still have make vegetable dishes in your slow cooker. Whereas in summer, you can blanch. So that means like you've just got a big pot of boiling water. You just quickly throw things in, or you can use the heat from other foods to kind of warm and cook that a little bit. So sometimes I'll make like maybe a pasta dish or some sort of spaghetti or something like that, and then just get some fresh bok choy or fresh kailan, which is like those Chinese vegetables, just cut them up and then just quickly throw them in at the very end of the cooking. So you can just throw them in, even if you're cooking a pasta, they taste quite good, add it in there. Or you've got some hot, slow cooked meat, you might have cooked some slow meat in your slow cooker. You could add fresh spinach leaves. So you're not actually really even cooking them, you're just kind of combining them with the warm meal that's already there. And that sometimes that heat can be enough, like it's almost steaming those lighter kind of vegetables. It depends on what it is. Like you can mix a little bit of cooked and raw together. On your plate, you should try to have a balance of cooked and raw. So let's just turn this thing here into a plate. So why would we say mostly cooked? One of those reasons I mentioned before, that your body's warm. Your body's really like 2/3 of it is yang and 1/3 of it is yin. So let's think about your plate of food. Really, like 2/3 of it should be warm and cooked and yang, and 1/3 of it could be that heavier, denser sort of stuff that's yin. So you can have yang foods that will become even more yang when you cook them, because cooking process puts yang into food. But things that are yin, like heavily processed things, like things that come out of packets, that sort of stuff. Even like your raw vegetables that haven't had any heat applied to them, you could class those things as yin. So if you wanted to have a salad, for instance, you could put your salad here. Oops. And meat, vegetables. Now we're not saying have tons of meat, just have a little bit of meat, but your cooked vegetables. You might have some cooked grains. Let's say you had rice, or you had something else there, some lentils, something like that. And look, everyone's different in terms of their constitution, and your Chinese medicine practitioner will be able to give you some more specific advice about what types of food you should eat, and that'll help you work out what foods are better for your body. But just these are general principles that would pretty much apply to most people. So you want to have mostly cooked foods most of the time. 2/3 of your body's yang, so try to have 2/3 of yang kind of foods, and try to avoid, like just in general, it's good to avoid packets and too many foods that are processed. So why would we avoid processed foods? Let's quickly have a look at that question. So if you think of your stomach, your spleen, this digestive process, there's a few things that can happen. One is people can get dampness in their body, which is like a bogging up of your system, basically. So if you think of damp in the environment, it's like a cloud. It's like if you go into a damp place, the air feels thick, right? It's bogging you down, and you feel weighed down. I don't know if you've ever gone to an Asian country, for instance, and it's like, wow, you can really feel that thickness in the air. Well, some people in their body, they have that, like damp basically clogs things up and it bogs things down. So with this process, we say the clear yang should rise, basically, and the dirty dregs go downwards. When you've got damp, it makes it really hard for that clear yang to rise, because it kind of puts this like blockage there, and your body can't digest that as well. So it's kind of blocking that stuff. So if you feel cloudy-headed, like you feel like a vice-like grip around your hair, or you feel this like cloud, or you're going around in a haze, then you've probably got some kind of damp or phlegm in your body. So it blocks that clear yang from getting to your head, and you don't have those clear thoughts and that clarity and that kind of stuff. A lot of times people change their diet, and they notice, like, that's one of the things they notice, wow, like their bowels might change, but also that their clarity of thinking changes, and they think, oh, I didn't even know I felt not so great. But as their body starts to restore its yang function of digestion, then they start to feel, those thoughts are clearer and they feel better. So sometimes just through life, like stuff can happen. You might have had previous illnesses. You might have had a season where you haven't treated your body so well. You might not have good sleep. There can be lots of different reasons why this sort of weakens. And over time, instead of being that nice big fire, it's like, you know, if you've got one of those camp stove cooking things with a limited amount of gas, or you're cooking with a gas bottle, and the gas is running out. Like, there's no way you can pump that fire up if the gas is going down, like it's just running out. So that fire of your spleen, that digestive energy is weakened, and it's just not enough to kind of digest the food. So you get sludgy, you get maybe incomplete bowel movements, or like undigested food in the bowels. That kind of stuff can happen. And it doesn't have to be diarrhea. Sometimes this can be buggered up, and you'll also get constipation. There can be other factors that might influence you and cause that. But essentially, when this is weakened, it doesn't really matter what you put in your stomach. You might be eating a really healthy diet, and you just feel like, wow, I don't feel good. You can't really get, like, you know you've treated your body badly so in the past, or you've had some serious illnesses, and that's taken its toll on your body. And that's when you really need to see a Chinese medicine practitioner who can help give you herbs, pretty much. You could use acupuncture as well to kind of increase that spleen function and help that working, because sometimes no amount of healthy foods kind of actually can fix it. It's not going to make it any worse, and it's certainly better for you to eat those healthier foods and to have that warm cooked diet. So it really depends on how damaged this is here. So when you've got damp, your body just it's kind of like it's just tired, and sometimes you might feel like really tired after eating or bloated after eating. What can also happen is one of the flavors that affects your spleen is like sweet. So if you start craving sweet foods, it's like your spleen's saying, help me, give me some little bit of energy to help me digest the food. Now, the sweet flavor is a really interesting one in Chinese medicine, because there's lots of things that are flavored sweet, but they're not sugar. So you've got your sugar kind of sweet, and a lot of people go for sugar because, like, let's say you have lunch and you have that afternoon slump and you feel like, oh God, I've got to have a cake now, or I've got to have a piece of chocolate or something, or even in the evening, a certain time of the day, you start getting this cycle where you need that sugar, you need that sweet. Well, what happens is you get addicted to the sugar, and that means that then your body keeps on craving it more and more. But initially that might have started because your spleen was weak, and it was like your body saying, hey, help me, I need some help to digest this food. So sweet will help that a little bit. It gives it like this instant energy, but it doesn't last very long. And then as soon as that instant energy is gone, your body's left with the difficulty of, firstly, it's overwhelmed. I mean, in the Western sense, we could say that when you have sweet foods, it's going to produce insulin in your body. And you've got all these other systems that are happening there. You've got this blood sugar high and then this low. So when you've got that low, your spleen's working even harder to kind of digest, and it's either saying, give me more. So people get on a cycle where they've got to have more and more sweet foods. They just get in that habit of needing that. And sweet, it doesn't help your spleen if you have too much of it. Like it's a little bit of sweet will kind of help it, and it feels a little bit good for a bit. And so certainly mentally you feel really good from sweet, like you feel like, oh, I feel relaxed, I feel good, but it doesn't really help this process. So we wouldn't recommend you have like sugar for that reason, but that can be one of the reasons why you crave sugar, especially if you crave sugar after eating. The other flavors that are sweet actually are most of your grains. So rice, barley, millet. Now, you might not even know what these grains are, but in Chinese medicine, they're very commonly used grains for stuff like even lentils, and most of your vegetables, not all of them, but most of them have a sweet component to them. So particularly root vegetables like pumpkin and potato and sweet potato, obviously. Those foods are good for the spleen. Pumpkin. Now, a lot of vegetables have they're either sweet and bitter, or they could be sweet and pungent. And we'll talk about pungent in a minute because that's a good one to use for this stuff. But the nature of those foods being sweet is actually, that's good for you. Like it's good. Sugar is not a good thing to put here because it's so highly processed. The other thing that creates damp in your body. So we talked about, firstly, your spleen maybe has gotten weaker from some other thing that's happened, and maybe it was diet stuff in the past, or maybe it's diet, maybe it's nothing to do with your diet really, but just over time this has weakened and gotten worse. But too much processed food. So every time you have a food in its raw form, so let's say you've got barley, or probably wheat's a good example because we use so much wheat in our culture. So you have wheat, and you cook up a bowl of wheat and you eat that. Now that's not really common, and most people don't even eat a bowl of wheat, but we love to grind the wheat up and make it into flour. Now that's one stage of processing. Now then, if you get that flour and you mix it with some eggs and some butter and different things, you make it bread out of it, you make a cake out of it. That's another step of processing. Then you take that bread and then you put that with something else, and you make like a fried bread, or you do other things with it. So every step of cooking in a way, or processing that you do, and the more refined that thing gets away from its original source, the more dampening that food becomes. So essentially, processed foods they don't help this situation here. They just sort of bother up this digestion. So they eventually just weaken that spleen because it's putting so much stuff in the stomach. It's so hard to digest. It takes up so much energy. And that can be a big problem. So in our society, like a lot of people eat foods out of packets. That's an indication that it's processed. If you eat, like with this diet advice, the 2/3 yang situation, like really 1/3 should be processed foods. That's in your whole diet. Like not try to avoid processed food as much as you can, but within that yin. So that includes all your raw stuff. That includes like snacks and things that are packaged or processed. So if you can have a lot of fresh foods, then that's more yang. That's facilitating this process. It's making it easier for your spleen and stomach, and your digestion will improve, and you'll start to feel like heaps and heaps better. There's lots of reasons why people go for processed foods. It's convenience, it's quick. Sometimes what can happen as well is if you get tired and you get busy, a lot of these things work in together. So you just get busy and you don't prioritize, or you don't make a plan for your eating, and then you're just at the mercy of whatever's there. So you go to a deli or something, and there's like sausage rolls or pies. Those things fit into that processed foods thing. And, having a pie once a week or once a fortnight, maybe once a month, isn't so bad. If that's all you have, and that's all you have of processed foods. But if that's your regular diet, and then plus you're having a lot of trades people I know have a lot of like highly sugary kind of drinks, like iced coffee and things like that. And then they're eating like a lot of takeaway kinds of foods, pies, or their body might not be overweight because when you're younger, you've got a lot of yang, and you kind of burn that stuff up. But then eventually, just one day, what will happen is your body will just get a health problem. It'll just come out of nowhere, but it hasn't come out of nowhere. It just seems like it has. But over time, it's just been weakening your spleen. So in the next videos, I'm going to talk about how you can incorporate some of these situations, these healthy lifestyle stuff, into your situation, so that you can make it easier for you, and you're not kind of wondering what you should do. The first step is making a plan. If you don't have a plan, then you'll just have whatever is there, or whatever's convenient. And sometimes you just get really tired, like physically tired, and you go to the supermarket hungry, and you're like, I don't know what to buy, I don't know what to cook, and you get foods out of packets and things like that. And then you start to consume more processed foods, and that just weakens this more, and then that makes you more tired, and that cycle kind of perpetuates. I like, just before we finish, I'll just give you a couple of things I like that will make this easy for you. One is buy a slow cooker. You can get those from your local supermarket. I've got lots of recipes on our website, on the blog, which is you can use making foods with a slow cooker. It's easy, it's quick. Because of the slow cooking process, you really don't have to cut the food up too much, so there's not much preparation time, and and you get a lot of flavors coming out of out of the natural ingredients of the food. So you can use different things to kind of help your spleen. You can even make sweet flavoured, slow cooked meals. If you have trouble digesting foods like meats, slow cookers are great because they'll help the meat become softer and easier to digest. When we talked before about warm, moist, and cooked, well, slow cookers really help moisture because there's no frying there, so frying kind of cooking method dries things out. So one of the best moisturising methods is going to be a slow cooker. That's one thing. The other thing is like soups. So you can have, if you're really struggling to get vegetables in your 2/3 of yang, you should have at least half of that in vegetables, and then the other half can be grains and meats if you want. But like you need lots of plant foods in your diet. Most I'm Australian, so most of the patients I see are in Australia. Most Australians eat tons more meat than they need to eat. Now you do have the extreme things with vegan, vegetarian. Look, in Chinese medicine, we really wouldn't say that's healthy, but the other extreme of having way too much meat and not enough vegetables isn't healthy either. So you need to have a little bit of meat in your diet, but not like the whole majority of the plate is all meat. If you struggle to get those veggies in you, make a big soup in your slow cooker once a week. And look, it's not the most optimal thing to freeze foods and reheat them, but that's better than eating packets and processed stuff. So watch my next videos and we'll talk about how you can incorporate some of these things into your lifestyle. Hope you've enjoyed my video about Chinese diet therapy and just the basics of why we should eat mostly cooked foods most of the time. Thank you.